What's up, y'all? Okay, why am I making this video? First, I'm making this because, well, I see so many people out there that are interested in astrology. I have so many people that come get readings from me. And these are people that understand astrology on a more in-depth level. But I do also get clients that just still get readings, even if they get their time of birth, and still associate with their sun signs. Now, let me tell you guys, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, your sun sign is based on the day that you were born. And for 30 days, the sun is sitting in a constellation in space. So it will determine your constellation sun sign for those 30 days, okay? However, in astrology, what we have as far as society's understanding of horoscopes is only 1%. Astrology is about 100% if you want to put it in like in a number system, and we only have 1% of it. Now, I was guilty of this when I was first getting into astrology about 10, 15, however many years ago, well, probably longer than that. I was only aware of my sun sign. My sun sign was Scorpio. I was so tied to it. And it was just like, I'm Scorpio this, I'm Scorpio that. Now, here's the problem with it, guys. Your sun sign in astrology depicts your ego. If you know anything about psychology, we have 3 facets to our personality, okay? You have your id, which is your identity, your ego, and your superego. This is the same concept with astrology. In fact, psychology is carbon copied from astrology. This is where psychology comes from. You don't believe me? Do your research. And so in astrology, we also have the rising, which is the id, the sun is the ego, and the moon is the superego. Now, I bring this up because with those 3 components to your personality, it is so important to get your time of birth to identify what 3 planetary positions are, you know, where they are at, your moon, your rising, your sun, where they're at in the sky when you take your first breath and the doctor jots down your birth time. Why is this important? Well, because you are not just your sun sign, all right? In fact, you are probably least your sun sign compared to your superego and your identity, which is your rising and your moon. These 2 determine who you are way, way, way more profound. Now, the sun is something that has become your ego from what you have created for yourself when you became self-aware, whether that was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some people become self-aware much earlier, some much later in time, whatever. Some people never do. We're not gonna get into that. But the sun sign, okay, like I'll use me for an example. I'm a Scorpio sun, but I'm a Pisces rising, which is my identity. And my moon is a Leo. So at home, when I'm comfortable, behind the scenes, internally, I am a Leo. I feel like a Leo. My emotions are like a Leo. At home, I'm like a Leo. And people that get close to me experience me as a Leo. I'm very, very prideful. I'm very confident. I operate from the heart center. I'm warm. I'm giving. I'm all those good Leo qualities and the bad Leo qualities, depending on the mood of the day, right? Because the moon fluctuates. The moon, if you see it in the sky, it waxes and wanes. It gets big and it gets small. So this is why our emotions are like that, because our emotions are tied to the moon. Now, that is always dependent on what sign it's in. For me, it's in Leo. So I tend to be very like flamboyant with my emotions. I wear them right here, hard on my sleeve. So going back to the sun, I'm a Scorpio sun. In astrology, your sun is your vitality, okay? It is the power of your energy that you're consuming, that you're inside of, okay? When you were born. It's what gives you life, which is why so many people are tied to it, because the sun represents the ego. It is what you have told yourself that you are. Doesn't mean this is what you are necessarily. And the sun is what you are striving to be in society, what your desire is to be and to show up as. The sun also represents your father, and it represents your career path, or what your career should be, what direction you should go in, what is complementary to you. The rising is who you really are, okay? This is who, so the first house, which is where the ascendant is, the rising point. Now the rising, to get more in depth, is the sun that was rising behind, or sorry, not the sun. It's the sign that was rising behind the sun when you were born. this is what your identity is, okay? This is how you perceive the world through the lens that you see the world through. And this is how people actually perceive you during first encounters or out in society. So you might think you're projecting yourself as your sun sign, but this is why people are like, are you this? And they're like, no, I'm not that sign, because they're not seeing that. They're seeing your rising sign. So for me, I'm a Pisces rising. So people can see me as head in the clouds. They can see me as, it's Jupiter ruled, so it's like jolly. They can see me as that Jesus embodiment, where I'm very spiritual, very giving, very humble. I can be, people can see me as sensitive or weak or easygoing, easy to manipulate, even though these are not the real aspects of me. I'm a 4-planet Scorpio. You can't manipulate me. However, this is how I come off though, right? So people can take advantage of Pisces risings. They can take advantage of all of the softer risings, whether you're freaking Cancer rising, Pisces rising. When you come off with those softer energies, people might see you as something more easygoing and more easy to manipulate. But me being a Pisces rising, that's beyond the point. Me being a Pisces rising, this is what my embodiment is, okay? So my body is as a Pisces rising. This is the first house of you, your identity. So this is why when we're doing astrology and you're getting a reading, that's why it's so important to have your time of birth. Because if you don't have your time of birth, an astrologer cannot identify the whole makeup of who you are. And without seeing that rising and where that ascendant lies, it's really hard to delineate what's actually going to happen to you in your life. So you can hear, something for your sun sign. So for instance, I can go and listen to Scorpio, astrology, and it might come close to it because it's good to still listen to it. It's secondarily, but it might not make full on sense because it's more so for your father, for your career, and more so for what you're striving to be, more so on an ego level. Okay. So which is why we can still identify with it, because it's still our ego. And if you know anything about ego, if you read anything about Carl Jung, the ego is something that we create when in our young years, and then when we become aware, we try to embody that. Even though we're embodying our rising and we are our moon, the sun is also equally in there. It's the id, ego, and superego. These are the 3 components of a person's personality. Now we have the entire zodiac chart, right? Why is this so? Well, because the planets were all there when you took your first breath and you came out of your mom's canal. Every planet had a specific placement when you were born, and wherever those planets lie makes up this composite, this chart of your soul. I call this a snapshot. So like on Snapchat, whatever, you take a snapshot. That's what is happening up there when the doctor marks your time of birth. It is a snapshot of your soul, of where all the planets were, exactly where, what time, how they're aspecting, how they're angling, how they're pushing and pulling on a velocity level. And this gives out the frequency of your physical embodiment. So this is what makes you as a person. And this is what makes your identity, your personality, your inner world, your moral compass, how you learn, how you speak, how you identify with others, your anger, your actions, what you desire. All of that can be seen in a chart. All of your characteristics, your traits, what you stand for can be seen in a chart. Whether you're weak or not, strong or soft, emotional or, detached. There's not anything that can't be seen, okay? Now, the thing with astrology when you're doing delineation is that there is a bell curve, right? So not always is it going to be fully on. It's going to be about 90% all the time. There could still be that 10%. Why? Because we have free will. So an astrologer might tell you, hey, this is going to happen. However, there is multiple things that can happen within that frequency, okay? So what do I mean by that? Well, every zodiac sign governs something in the world, okay? It governs an energy and a purpose. Then you have the houses that it rules. And these houses, which are the pie charts, the area, where the constellations are lying in space, these areas also govern parts of the world, the world stage, okay? Then you have the aspects and how, one planet to another is making its push and pull. It's velocity. It's the speed, you know, I can't think of the freaking word in science. I'm like, oh, fucking this up, but you guys get the drift. The aspects, which are they are literally based off of geometrical configurations in space. So, for instance, we have squares, which are 90-degree angles. You have oppositions, which are 180-degree angles. You have sextiles that are 60-degree angles. You have conjunctions that are like literally on top of each other. Planets that sit right on top of each other. They can go between 0 to 5 degree orbs. Some people do 7, some do 10, depending on the power of the planet. For me, I go between, 5, 7, and 10, again, depending on what planet is, sitting on top of another in aspect, in conjunction, as they say. There is so much to astrology that it's not as basic as the sun sign concept. So for those of you that are still associating with sun signs only, I have to be frank, you are completely still asleep, because the sun sign is the ego. And if you're still operating based off the ego and you haven't had an ego death yet, you're still operating superficially. This is to be as nice as I can be. And that the reason for this is because, again, the ego isn't always fully aware or honest of what's actually happening. Now, this isn't to say that you can't have a healthy ego, but you have to go through this disillusionment, these ego deaths, these letting goes and shedding of this fantasy or this fake self that you have created in order to survive in the world. When you break down these layers and you do that shadow work, as people like to say, or you go and do some introspection and you study astrology, you study your psychology, you start to really understand. Numerology is here too, and human design, guys. It's wonderfully all connected. So is cardology, which is why I push this so much. When you go and you break these things down, then you really know who you are. Then you really start to understand what your inherent energy is and what your inherent personality, who you are at the core is, instead of what was given to you by society and by dogmas, by belief systems, and by the programming that has happened from when you had your awakening, when you finally were self-aware. These are all projections. These are all things that come from your family, your mom and dad, your siblings, the culture that you're raised in. These are not who you are, but this is what we adapt to and we adopt into our persona, thinking that this is who we are supposed to be. This is why I try to promote astrology, get people to do readings, find your time of birth, come to me and get some shit going so that you can decondition yourself, so that you can break down who you really are, get to the core of yourself, and then try to better self-identify. This will help you tremendously in life to get on your path, to really pursue what it is that you at your core, at the inner aspect of your soul desires, and really to find out your purpose on earth, because we're not just here robotically like, why am I here? Now, there are a lot of people like that, more power to them, I wish them the best. And the reality is, do I think everybody's going to wake up in this time? I don't think so. I feel like it's like a video game. We have levels to this shit. Some people are at different levels. Some are here to be robotic. Some are here to wake up. Some are here to find this win or go that way or and that's fine. To each his own. I'm not here to judge anyone. I just am making this video for those that have that inner desire to snap out of it, to get out of the matrix, to find their path, to push forward, find what makes them happy, identify with their core aspects, and really strive. This is also the way of healing your traumas, is to really learn the depth of who you are on a very karmic and dharmic level. So I know there's people out there that hate the word karma, but guys, karma is not bad, even if it feels bad. Like, when we go through fucked up shit, you have to understand that these things are equal measures for things that we have done, whether in this life or in another life. And it's not to punish you. We are here experimenting. The concept of fucking hell and heaven is really up here. You can have hell, you can have heaven on earth while you're alive, We know this to be true because we've all lived it. I've lived a fucking form of hell. I'm sure you guys have too, whoever's watching this. I've had my bliss, I've had my heaven. And this is yin and yang. We have good, bad, and we have an equal opposite to everything. So, those love and light folks, and that's all they push, they need to get into reality, because reality is just black and white. You know, it's darkness, it's light, it's a mix of all things. And regardless if we want to accept it or not, it's not always for like bad things. Everything is always working for the better good for ourselves, whether it's painful or not, guys. It's a soul thing. It's more than skin deep. This is just a time in between, okay? And we wear these space suits, I like to call them, these human suits, human meat suits, and we're going to change them up. We will eventually, you know, you either reincarnate, you get another human suit, or you go to another dimension, another realm, you know. As we all know, energy cannot be killed off, and humans are just energy. We are the frequencies of these planets. We are the minerals, the literally the elementals of these planets mix into one. This is where we get into freaking chemistry and, you know, understanding the anatomical aspect of how this stuff works. We are the same thing as everything around us in the universe, okay? As above, so below, as within, so without. So I'm going to leave y'all there because I could ramble on forever, but I hope that this kind of explains the importance of getting your astrology read, getting your time of birth, learning the map. Your chart is your map, guys. It is your compass. It is literally a fucking map that God gave us. And astrology is the study of light. It is the language of God. It is the way to directly get information from source without having to like assume or believe. You know, we are out of this age of Pisces. Not fully. I'm a Pisces rising, so I know I'm here to usher in the release of the Pisces era, guys. I am one of those, and with the Mars Aqua, here to help y'all let go of the believing and hoping and wishing and the dreaming, which is the American dream, bunch of baloney. It's the sleep aspect, guys. We're not supposed to be in slumber no more. I'm here to help you usher in that awakening with that Mars and Aqua that I own. That's my Mars aspect. Mars is your action. And so I'm here cutting through the bullshit, severing the lies to help you guys awaken, because Aqua is the man sign. It is the sign of higher consciousness. It's ruled by Uranus, vibrations that are coming down to earth to wake us up, to elevate our consciousness so we can operate on the higher brain, which is the cerebellum instead of the cerebrum, and get out of that slumber, get out of that sleep state of Pisces era. That's over. There's no more believing and hoping and wishing, guys. We are in the age of knowing. Anything you want to know is available now. And we're in the information age. Everything's right at our fingertips. So there's absolutely no excuse. But to be more sympathetic, I know that everybody's on their own timeline. So I'm not here to hurt anyone's feelings. But yeah, so I'm going to leave y'all with that. I hope that this doesn't fall on deaf ears. And book a reading with me, spiritcoachingastrology.com.